Hi folks, welcome to the Blacksmith Shop. I'm Lin Rhea from the Historic Arkansas Museum. We've had an exciting morning. We've been very prosperous as far as our discussion, and you'll hear more about that later. More on a research project about James Black knives. And in our conversations we make discoveries. And we're going to be really excited to share that with you. One of our members, John Miller, has come up with a little trick on making the James Black style coffin handle knife. I think you'll be really interested in. But right now, we are looking at hot punching and hot fitting a guard. Now this is extra long, extra wide, extra big, and all just about every way. The guard onto a knife. Now let me put this in the fire and let it be getting hot, so I'll do that right now. And then we'll walk over to the blade, which is, the blade is in the vise. It's best for this piece since it's got such a wide range of geometry. It's got some small ends and a thick in the middle geometry. So if we bring up the heat too fast, we're going to get the ends too hot, quicker than the middle. So we put it in, get the fire hot, just put the piece in there and let it soak. And that's the way the small piece that's got such a diverse geometry, that's the way you should heat that up. Okay, right here we have the blade is in the vise. We've got it gripped between two pieces of wood, and we're going to attempt to keep that from slipping. But what we want to do, we're going to punch the slot on the anvil, and eventually we're going to get it to the point to where we can come over and slide it on and then drive it down with a hammer. And we're going to attempt to set the back of this part right here up into the face of the guard. And we're going to, this is like stamping your foot into the mud. We're going to put a footprint in the face of that guard, and it's going to be a perfect fit to this blade. So that guard will only fit this blade from then on. And then once that is done, we're going to either file or grind, curl, whatever the case might be, depending upon the design of this knife, the overall design. We're going to drift it back true north and south, east and west by other means. But the hold is paramount at this point. We're going to concentrate totally on making that fit. So that, we may not get to that on video, but we're going to go ahead and sink the back of the guard with the slot punch. So we have the slot punch locked up in our tongs, and this approximates the size of the tang right there. It's a little smaller, but that's what we want. So this approximates the size of that tang right there, thickness and width, because we want that hole to be tight and just go on most of the way and then drive on the rest of the way, if you follow the logic behind that. So again, this is all forged finish, so it's going, the forge scale will be still there when it's done. We want this thing to be really hot, so let's check on it. Okay, we put it in the fire. The ends of it are hot, but the big middle where we're going to actually do the work is still shadowy. It's not hot enough, so let's get that hot. I'm getting some air, loosening up the coke, getting some air in there. And I want to have everything in a row, all my ducks in a row, everything in place before this is going to actually be successful. So we have to be able to drive that piece in there, and that's quite a little effort to do a slot. It's of course doable, but my point is that everything has to be in place. The timing, the proper hammer, and I have to be quick about it. So there is some effort. It might take more than one or two heats, so let's see what we can do. on it, I can see part of it, but I can see that the middle of it is not as bright, and I want that to be surely bright. I don't want it to have, I don't want the part I'm not working on to be hot enough and the rest of it not. I want that part to be hot. It has to be. Be patient with it, and then whenever it's right, I will be concentrating on that. There's all this other stuff out of my way. Well, I won't grab the wrong handle. But we're almost there, and we're going to be putting the hole in the back of the guard, the back. It sounds like the wrong place, but that's just the way it has to be done right now. We're coming up, we're bright orange. I want it to be yellow hot. Yellow hot, just a little hotter than orange. And it's climbing quick. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to step to the side, and one good hammer blow and it sets it. As long as I'm not bouncing, then I'm okay. I have to cool the punch. I have to cool that punch so that it won't deform and get hung up. I can feel it bouncing, so I know that, and I know that it's not going to take effect. So it's time to heat it back up. There's a bead of water. It's pretty interesting to see that bead of water. It almost looks like melted lead. It won't set on that metal. It's floating on steam, and it's going away quickly. But that's what's happening. It's too hot for it to actually sit on it. So it's evaporating in a ball. It's pretty interesting. So let's look at something else right here. This slot is not exactly lined up with it. So what I was meaning earlier is that, let me get my pointer. This is paramount, so we will take material off of this corner and this corner to realign everything. So again, true north and south is going to be a little bit more like this instead of straight. So we'll drift everything else to match this. Another thing we're going to see after the next session with the punch is that when we flip that over, there's going to be a shiny spot that's going to tell us where the slug is going to be removed. So let's get this hot again. Air back up. Each time I have to loosen the coat to get plenty of air and oxygen to the coke, and then the temperature will raise. Again, it's just soaking, and I'll take a little bit of a break from pumping and let it catch back up. If I go too fast, those top and bottom lugs will get too hot. A couple of puffs, and then a pause. A couple of puffs, and then a pause. And we're working with primarily three elements three factors in our work: time, temperature, and technique. So we're using the timing to help to allow the temperature to disperse and enter the piece just from the atmosphere. The fact that it's in proximity of that high temperature, it will just soak in. If we try to force it too fast, the extremities will burn away, and the mass that we're actually trying to work on, that heavier massive part in the middle, it won't get hot enough quick enough. And so the timing will allow it to soak in. It looks like it's almost there. Here we go. So I'm trying to get that, what will be the slug, as thin as I can get it. Now let's look at it. Okay, we can see the slug. There's a shadow right there. And there is the slug. You see it right there? It's really, really thin. And so the material that was used to punch out is minimal. It's very, very minimal, and I'm going to have to get that out of there, which is no problem. But I may have to do that in another way. That's okay. You just try to bump it. Yeah, I can feel it coming out. There it is. One more punch. Lay that aside. Now we see a dish. We see a dish in it, but we'll flatten that out. But there's the slug, and you can see how thin that thing is. It's probably, I don't know, a few thousandths, maybe less than a 1/16 of an inch. So where did all that other material go? If we pushed it down, then and that's all that's left that came out, then it had to go this way. So let's turn it over. Look at the difference between this side and this side. You see how this really is the hole, the front of the hole, and that's the size that we're trying to, that's the important side. So we started with the back, and it's kind of blown out a little bit bigger, which is okay. That'll cover with the handle. This is the one we're worried about. It's more crisp and shaped the way we want it. So we'll heat that up and hammer it flat, and then it goes on to the knife that direction. And the back, it doesn't matter, the handle will cover it. We'll reshape all this by grinding or stock removal, and then this will stretch over the knife. So I think we've had a successful punch. And we're going to proceed to fit that hot. This will be hot, the knife won't be. This will be hot, it'll stretch to fit and make a perfect fit to the blade. So I think we've done our job today. So good, we're happy about that. So thank y'all for being here. This will be a finished project one day soon, and you'll get to see it, hopefully. But for the Historic Arkansas Museum, thank y'all for coming. Again, I'm Lin Rhea. We're glad you stopped in.